برای آخرین بخش برنامه از جمال عبدی، رئیس شورای ملی ایرانیان آمریکا، نایاک و کامران خانسارینیا، دبیر سیاستگذاری اتحادیه ملی برای دموکراسی در ایران، نوفتی، دعوت کردیم. هر دو خیلی خوش آمدید به برنامه. آقای عبدی، با شما آغاز بکنیم. موضع رسمی نایاک درباره بازگشت به برجام چه هست؟
Well, Nayak has strongly supported negotiations with Iran, the nuclear deal, returning to the nuclear deal. I believe we were one of the first to actually come out during the Trump administration and recommend that elected officials come out loud and strong and say we're going to save this deal if Trump leaves the White House, and end a situation in which the United States became the one to blame, became the pariah instead of the Islamic Republic. So we strongly support a return. Obviously, things are much different now. Now that Raisi is taking office, there is less upside in dealing, I think, with the Islamic Republic. I think that we see the protests that are happening now. We see this, somebody assuming the presidency who should probably be in front of a tribunal for crimes against humanity, not running a country. And so, at Nayak, we want diplomacy, but we don't do it because we like the Islamic Republic or we think there are some great people on that side of things. We advocate for diplomacy and a return to the Iran nuclear deal as a first step in diplomacy because of how bad the alternatives are. And because the alternative to diplomacy is either low-grade warfare, which is the sanctions that we see undermining civil society in Iran, undermining Iran's middle class, undermining the fundamental building blocks for a future democracy, or we see medium-scale war, the types of sabotage and assassination and terrorism and kidnapping, or we see all-out war. And those, I think, are much poorer alternatives to actually entering negotiations, being at the table, and trying to find a way to peacefully resolve the challenges that we have with Iran.
آقای خانسارینیا، موضع رسمی نوفتی در این باره چه هست و پاسختون به استدلال‌هایی که آقای عبدی داشتن چه هست؟
Well, Mr. Dekhanpour, thank you very much for having me. With your permission, I'll just say one brief sentence in Persian. من درود ویژه میفرستم به مردم ایران، مردم شجاع ایران که الان در خیابان‌ها هستن و من میدونم که نهایتاً پیروز خواهند شد. It's an excellent question, Siamak, and at Nufti, as an Iranian-American civic organization, I believe that we're well situated to answer the question because we look at two sides of a coin. The first is the impact that the JCPOA had on American national security, and the second is the impact that JCPOA had on the well-being of the people of Iran. If we look at the impact on American national security, we can see that it provided no benefit whatsoever because it did not control the Islamic Republic's terrorist activities in the region, its support for terror groups across the Middle East, and it didn't end the Islamic Republic's direct attacks on the United States and American soldiers throughout the region. When we look to the second component, the impact on the people of Iran, when this deal was being sold, when groups like Nayak were lobbying for it in Washington, we were told that it was going to benefit the people of Iran. We were told that this would even begin the road to democracy and human rights. None of that happened. The Iranian people continue to suffer under the brutality and the corrupt mismanagement of the Islamic Republic. Indeed, in 2017 and 2019, when they came into the streets while Nayak and other similar groups were blaming Donald Trump or blaming the U.S. government for the people of Iran's problems, the people of Iran said, "Dushman ma haminjast, durugh migan Amrikas." And for those who may not speak Persian well, I'm not sure if Jamal speaks Persian, that means our enemy is right here. They lie when they say it's America. So Iranians continue to suffer in poverty, in hunger, and Nayak says that this is because of the United States, but we know that it's the Islamic Republic. The worst part, however, Siamak, of the JCPOA was that it legitimized the illegitimate, the corrupt, the terroristic, and the gender apartheid regime of the Islamic Republic. Javad Zarif does not belong on the other side of an American negotiating team in Vienna. He belongs on the other side of a prosecutor in The Hague for the crimes against humanity that his regime and that he is responsible for. And so it's not really a question of should we return to the JCPOA. This is no longer theoretical. It didn't benefit the United States. It didn't benefit the people of Iran. It only benefited the Islamic Republic. So the better question is, why would any Iranian-American organization support the return to something that so clearly benefited the Islamic Republic? And when the accusation is made that there's no alternative to war, that's simply false. Groups like this, who are very soft on the Islamic Republic, have made a lot of headway and I'm sure raised a lot of money with this chicken little idea that war is coming. The alternative is engaging the Iranian people and supporting the Iranian people, which is what they're asking for right now when they're protesting on the streets of Khuzestan and other parts of the country.
آقای عبدی میخواید پاسخی دارید اگر بشنویم.
Look, I mean, with all due respect to Kamaran, I don't hear a solution here. I mean, supporting the Iranian people, absolutely. But this isn't a question of is the Islamic Republic bad or good. I mean, we can have that debate. I think we'd fall pretty close to the same side on that. This is a question of what you actually do about it. We saw, I mean, Kamaran talks about the JCPOA didn't deliver for the Iranian people. JCPOA was not in effect for very long, but before Donald Trump started talking about tearing it up, came into office and then did tear it up. So we never actually saw the fruits of the JCPOA. What we did see is what I believe is the alternative view. And look, if I'm wrong, if there is an alternative to, my statecraft is diplomacy and war, okay? If I'm wrong, if there is some third way that we are missing here, where we can ensure Iran does not build a nuclear weapon, where we can hold Iran accountable to its human rights obligations, where we can ensure that the Iranian middle class is able to flourish and civil society is able to hold the government in Iran accountable and demand change. I'm all for it. But from my perspective and from what I hear from folks like Nufti who spend so much time trying to make this an issue of is Iran bad or not, rather than what do we actually do about it and offering some prescriptions, we saw what the prescription is. We saw under Donald Trump what happened. By no means are we saying that the Islamic Republic isn't ultimately the most accountable party for the suffering of Iranians. That has never been said. What we are saying is that as American citizens who have a vote for this government, who actually live in a democracy, we have control over what our government does. And if our government is doing what they did under maximum pressure, which continues to this day, we see the middle class shrinking. Iran's middle class used to be close to a majority. Now it's closer to 30%. The middle class is the most important tool for democracy. That is the most important way to actually have a democracy movement from inside the country. We see Iranians going into poverty. Now 40% or more of Iranians are now in poverty. Of course that's because of the mismanagement of the Islamic Republic. Of course that's because of the corruption by officials, whether it's Ahmadinejad or Raisi or Rouhani. There is corruption. Yes, absolutely. But it's wrong to then say, well, then everything is the Islamic Republic and the United States should be part of efforts to punish Iranians. And that's what's happening. We have punished Iranians and made them less equipped to be able to challenge their government. We now have internet shutdowns in Khuzestan, and we have them in Ahvaz, and we have them all over the place. Part of the way that we can fight that is to actually not have sanctions, U.S. sanctions, that prevent Iranians from accessing the free internet. And there are all these other prescriptions. And I just wish that as an Iranian-American organization, I could actually engage with groups like Nufti and Kamaran. Instead, what we hear are the same tactics that the Islamic Republic uses to delegitimize us. You now have Iranian Americans who are afraid to express any position, as if it's not regime change, to express any position without being intimidated and attacked by these groups. If we want a democracy in Iran, we need to be able to talk to each other.
آقای خانساری نیا شنید صحبت آقای عبدی رو. یه نکته هم که مطرح کردن که من دوست دارم پاسخ بفرمایید حتما، این که گفتن مدت زیادی برجام فرصت داده نشد که فوایدش رو نشان بده.
Absolutely. So, Mike, first I'd like to respond to some of what Mr. Abdi says. All of the things that he laid out, preventing the acquisition of a nuclear weapon, a growing democracy, a flourishing middle class, free speech, human rights, none of that is possible until the Islamic Republic goes. Again, this is not a theoretical argument. I don't know how much longer folks like Nayak are waiting. I'm not sure how much longer folks in Nayak are willing to wait, how much longer you're willing to allow the Iranian people to suffer. It's been 42 years. It's been 20 years since the start of the quote-unquote reformist project, which has gone bust. So I would love to have a dialogue with you. I hope this will continue. And all members, once you are willing to say that the Islamic Republic is a criminal regime which must go at the hands of the Iranian people, That is the red line. That's the red line that the people of Iran have announced when they're on the streets right now, when they chant مرگ بر جمهوری اسلامی، مرگ بر علی خامنه‌ای، مرگ بر تمامیت جمهوری اسلامی، مرگ بر اصل ولایت فقیه. They have one very clear demand, and to be an Iranian American organization and to not make it your priority to reflect that demand in the United States is being complicit in the suppression of that voice. There's only two sides here: the people of Iran and the Iranian American community abroad and the Islamic Republic. This is not a debate that we can have. The Islamic Republic must go because it has spent 42 years massacring Iranians and 42 years threatening the United States. And to the point of the JCPOA not having had enough time, how much longer do you need? It's not just the JCPOA, it's 42 years of engaging the Islamic Republic. The Islamic Republic has had long enough to show its true colors, and it's showing its true colors right now on the streets of Izeh, on the streets of Susangerd, of the streets of Isfahan, all across Khuzestan in Tehran, when it's shooting children. And for the response of an Iranian American organization, while Iranian blood is flowing in the streets, to remove sanctions on the individual ordering that bullet to be fired is unacceptable. Once you are willing to say that the Islamic Republic has to go as a moral imperative, I would love to continue the dialogue.
Kamaran, how are you going to get rid of the Islamic Republic? Are you going to fly Pahlavi into Tehran and he's going to take over? Sepah is going to lay down their weapons? I don't understand. I am telling you, I can't go to Iran. My colleagues at night, we can't travel to Iran. We are no friends of the Islamic Republic. How are you going to get rid of the Islamic Republic? It's not up for me to do regime change, okay? The democracy happens internally. It has to happen organically. And I want to hear from you. Tell me, what is the prescription? Is it more sanctions? Is it dialogue with the opposition groups? Then what? How do we get rid of the Islamic Republic?
Before one can prioritize human rights in foreign policy towards Iran and begin to engage the Iranian people, you have to take the first step to stop helping the Islamic Republic. And the position that groups like Nayak and other groups which are soft on or affiliated with the Islamic Republic or its officials like Javad Zarif have long taken to give the regime billions of dollars to slaughter the people of Iran is the first step that has to be stopped. Once you stop writing the people who are killing Iranians checks, then we can talk about specifically steps that can be taken.
آقای خانساری خیلی تشکر میکنم. میخوام صحبتتون رو قطع میکنم. آقای عبدی از شما هم تشکر میکنم.